Okay, we are live. Good afternoon, good morning to some of you, ALSD community. I gotta say, I'm really glad to connect, albeit from a distance. We were talking with some industry friends last week, and somebody aptly put, we are people. We connect. It's what we do. And she's right. And so ALSD is honored to be the platform on which we can connect today. You know, I know it's a little different, especially for me who's sitting here looking at my own headshot, which does nothing for my confidence. I'm not able to look at all of you, but this is our way to connect right now. And I don't think that there's a better platform to do that on. And so first of all, we thank you for joining in this virtual panel today as an attendee. And certainly we appreciate our panelists who I will introduce here momentarily. But this is the new world that we're living in. We hope it doesn't last too long. I think that we all have our heads in the cloud a bit now, but we all are focused on the future and how we can come back and how we can do so with a plan, which is what this virtual panel is going to hit on a bit today. And before I introduce our panelists, I want to go back to a couple items that Jared addressed on our panel last week. You know, he said that, hey, ALSD's platform here, we exist to share. And so what we do is collect and aggregate information and send it out across our platforms for our members, which is teams, vendors, leadership, you know, all different types of industry folks we support and listen to. And so with that, in addition to the virtual panels that we're doing, we also have a couple ALSD items that have gone live recently. One is the ALSD Training Center. Now, all of you know and are familiar with a lot of our sales, service, and leadership trainers at ALSD. They come to a lot of our shows, they train your teams. We have aggregated with their permission some of their webinars, their articles, their podcasts, and we've collected them on our website. And, you know, a lot of them have received some praise online. I've been following the social channels, and a lot of them have gotten some great thumbs up. And so we're very proud to share those outlets with all of you. So ALSD Training Center is live now. You can hit our site and go to a couple different outlets. There's the news outlet, the industry news, Seat Magazine, all those different outlets, but the news outlet is where ALSD Training Center lives. In addition to that, we just rolled out this, I call it a notebook of sorts, that we started called Connecting Despite Social Distancing. It's a mouthful, but it's the truth. We want to still connect in the best way that we know how. And so we started this notebook of sorts. We did a survey of our members, and we also have been talking to countless members as well. And we've just put together tons of ideas about how we can connect, not just with each other. It's not so much about the working from home, it's more about connecting with our clients and our fans. And it's just a list broken up by category about how we can connect with our community during this time. So those are two things that you can check out. But what I encourage you to do, and a lot of people know this, you know, in anything that you do, a marathon, an association, your job, you get out what you put in. And so if you can send us your ideas, it's just gonna help make that notebook fuller and benefit you all. So send us your stories. My email, if you don't already know it, is amanda@alsd.com. It's super simple. Our other staff members too that you can send stuff to, Jared@alsd.com, Max@alsd.com, or any other counterpart that you work with on our home team. So you're like-minded people, we all are like-minded people, share your stories and we'll get them out to the industry. You know, we're in the All Boats Rise camp, and so we appreciate anything you can share with us. In the spirit of the All Boats Rise camp, I want to give a shout to a team member of ours. Max Snyder, our director of sponsorship, was the one who really lit the fire for these virtual panels. He's our young go-getter, and he came to us with this idea a couple weeks ago and said, you know, we're doing this. And it was like, okay, let's get behind it. How can we support you? And so Jared and I have been honored to be able to moderate a couple of these so far. And we thank Max for his ideas and his service. And I bring him up also because I want to make note that we're using technology now. And as we all know, technology can have its hiccups. I was on a call earlier this morning and my technology went out. So I want to make sure that you all know that if for some reason I go down, that Max will come in as plan B and ask the questions just as they were set forth for the panel. They already know this. And Jared Frank, our EVP and publisher, is plan C. We've got all these contingencies lined up just in case. So with that, the last win I want to share here before I toss it to the panel to give theirs is we started a campaign on social called #ALSD Good News. essentially we've asked our partners to send us what they're doing to help us rise in this situation. And they've given us really great ideas. Some of them are transferring their product lines right now, or changing their product lines, to make medical supplies, to donate food and beverage. And we couldn't be more proud to be a part of that community and allow them to share their stories. So we've been helping to share those on our social media outlets. If your team, your organization has good stories, again, send those to us and allow us to put them on #ALSD Good News. So with that, and without further ado, I think it's time for our panel to talk. So what I'm going to do here is give each person on the panel today an opportunity to talk. And I'll tell you, we've got a really, really dynamic, great group here with us today. And I'm going to let each person, starting with Deanna to Jake to Suraj, introduce themselves, who they are, what they do, and then we'll dive back into the panel. So Deanna, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Hello, Amanda. Hey, thank you again for inviting me to be a part of your panel. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Deanna Witter. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Houston Dynamo and Dash. I oversee all of our ticket sales and corporate partnership aspects of our club.
Great, thank you. Jake?
Yes, I would just echo what Deanna said. I think thank you for having me. I think thank you for Max for having the great idea. I think this is awesome for us as industry professionals to get together in such a crazy time. But my name is Jake Vernon. I'm the Vice President of Ticket Sales and Service for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oversee all our service and season ticket sales initiatives, as well as all our premium products and premium service departments. So excited to be here and happy to connect.
All right, Suraj, take us home.
Great, thank you, Amanda. Michael Suraj here, Director of Premium and Business Development with the Detroit Pistons. Oversee our premium and business development departments, as well as our entire new business vertical. But hopefully everyone here is staying happy, safe, and healthy. Again, thank you for having me on, Amanda, and looking forward to sharing the stage with Deanna and Jake.
Good, well, let's dive in. So the panel is called The Plan to Innovate and Differentiate. Now, we all know that, plans being put in place are still pretty fluid at this point, but these three panelists have shared with me some really great ideas that they have in terms of making a plan so far. So rereading the prompt one more time before diving into the questions. The prompt reads, as we look forward to the return of sports, we are encouraged to differentiate and safeguard our experiences. Let's make a plan to modify benefits, initiatives, and spaces. Study clients and industries impacted most, plan for future conversations, and be flexible, which could be most important. Devise a safe and celebratory return for our fans to boot. And with that, I want to start on the wins. I think that for all of us, the uplift is that there's been some really great stories come out of this and some really great leadership come out of this. So I'm going to start with Suraj first, and I would like you to tell me a little bit more about your Give Back Events initiative, understanding that we're connecting with our clients a little bit differently these days. So tell us about the Give Back Events initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. When the pandemic shut down our business operations, we had a couple goals in mind immediately, and that was, understanding and taking care of not only our employees, but our fans and our entire community. So we just recently received an email from our senior leadership. Subject line is, it's our time to shine, meaning that any hours that we can spare, we want to give back to the community. From there, we have teamed up with some of our top corporate partners, generated about $375,000 that we donated to Forgotten Harvest. It's a local food bank. And then actually today, we just, we had some members of our organization drive down to Cleveland Clinic and pick up some PPE equipment to bring to Henry Ford Health System, which is one of our top partners. They're a big hospital here in Detroit. So during the pandemic, we're focusing on reaching out, giving back to our entire community, all while already starting to develop some group theme nights around first responders, nurses, and doctors. Anything regarding honoring the people that have been taking care of our community during this time. Very, very lucky to work for the Detroit Pistons that are putting their employees and fans first on top of the community. And just to get that email with the subject line of "It's our time to shine, it's our time to give back," just shows that we're very invested in Detroit. We're very invested in Detroit basketball, alongside just making everybody happy and healthy.
Stay on email for a second, Suraj. I want to ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I emailed you a couple of weeks ago when this was all first just going down, and I got an auto reply, and I thought, well, it's probably working. I don't know why you put up an auto reply. I read the auto reply, which is uncommon for a lot of people I know. You had in there, I recall, venue status, several venues, guidelines, and also your cell phone number. And I was really impressed by that. I was wondering how that play was drawn up and if that was something that was kind of encouraged or mandated by your team.
Yeah, so to start, we're a tenant in at Little Caesars Arena, so we don't office out of LCA. We have a brand new practice facility just a mile north. So we have several different facilities that we're in and out of. So what we wanted to do is, abide by government regulations and shut down those operations, work from home, let all of our prospects, clients, and partners know that. All while letting them know that our world-class service day in and day out doesn't stop just because our business operations stop. So all of us have the same out-of-office reply up on our away messages. It provides our cell phone and basically just lets everybody know, all of our top partners, prospects, clients, that we're here for them. We will be just as accessible for them as we are while we're in the office. Our day doesn't stop. Our service doesn't stop, and day in and day out, we're going to work towards, making their experience better.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, nice job on that one. Jake, pivoting to you, customer journey is probably changing right now. You've already started to address that, and at one point you have a back to basketball plan that you shared with me. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a unique situation that we're all in, and I think part of what I've tried to do with my staff and our group is really, change the mindset to how do we react to what's going on, to be more long-term and start to be a little proactive and start to build out a plan that would be all right, when we're ready, what does that look like, and what does that back to basketball, back to business plan look like? And I think, for us, it's all kinds of things. I think when you look at a campaign launch, what is the messaging going to be coming out of this? What is the product development? I think all of us have typically sold the same type of products. I think it's a great time to look at, okay, does this make sense for us now, or does this make sense for us coming out of what is a world-changing scenario with the pandemic? So I think this opportunity from a back to basketball plan includes like assessing those products. And I think the payment schedules and everything we do as a business, and we do such a great job of sharing ideas, but I think it's a great time to examine what that looks like. And customer journey to me is first and foremost. I think it's probably the most important thing that we do as teams is how do we take someone who's interested in our team and sort of build them up to a interested fan, to a single game buyer, to a season ticket holder, corporate partner, what it might be down the road. And I think that's got to change a little bit now, right? I mean, we've had to change our scripts. We had to change how we talk to people. And I think as we look at this, I've always believed in an attract, connect, convert sort of style. And I think as we look at that attract part, we've got to be very, soft in our approach with folks and build out and spend more time on the front side of that attract part than we probably have in the past, where typically we've gotten people into our pipeline and automatically we're trying to build, get them right into a sale, whether that's coming to a sales event, selling them a package, whatever that might be. We've tended to be we're all aggressive people, I think, and aggressive sales organizations. And I think that customer journey has to change, and we're really going to have to examine that piece as we come out of this.
Well, Jake, you guys also just underwent a substantial renovation, which included upgrades to premium areas, which have been performing very well, as I understand it. With suite holders, they're engaging with renewed benefits. Can you tell us how you're planning to continue over-delivering that high level of service?
Yeah, I think it's suite holders and suite leases and our premium products, right? I mean, they've signed long-term leases with us, with all our teams. And we've been fortunate, as you said, Amanda, we've gone through an amazing transformation of our building and our premium spaces. And we, we are at a 98% sell through right now, which is great. It allows us not to have so much, volatility in our sales process there, but we need to focus on over delivering what we've promised these folks. And I think, right now where we're potentially, we're in a suspended season where concerts are being postponed, where, we also have a W team who is under a suspension as well. I think we've got to start to examine how do we over deliver and provide value beyond what is included in their contract. And I think for us, that's going to mean more access to the team. That's got to be more, some of those exclusive events coming out of this. It's probably going to mean, probably looking at some expenses that we weren't planning on, but we need to provide them some additional value so they feel good about their investment with us. And quite frankly, this is a partnership and a collaboration that we need to be committed to.
Yeah, I think that was well put. And I think Deanna can even take that ball and run with it. In terms of client engagement, you used a line earlier with me, Deanna, and I hope you remember what it was, because I hope that our attendees here will get out their pen and write it down and keep it as a motto of their own. So tell us what that line was, if you recall.
Yeah, it's something we've been saying over the last couple of weeks to our team to remind them what our purpose is as a component of the community, is that this is time to make friends, not money. And we truly believe, and this is something I took from the Cavs, from our isms with Dan Gilbert, was, money doesn't lead, it follows. And so it's really important that, we're being very intentional with our client engagement and what we're doing. So there's been a lot of, for us, it's very structured out touch points with our current clients and some of the people that we've been prospecting over the last several months as we were opening up our season. So in our situation, we had just launched the MLS season. We had hosted our home opener by the time that things started to postpone. And, right now we have full intentions to play a full regular season with playoffs at this point, in just an abbreviated calendar year. And so it's really important that we stay connected and engaged with them. And we're showing more in the sense that we care and that, their situation matters to us. And so we're doing a lot of touch points and engagements. And one of the things that we're doing right now that we're starting to launch is that campaign, a handwritten note campaign, something really sentimental and really simple. And sometimes, as we're looking at ways to innovate, there's some old, actions that we can pull that have this sense of going back. I mean, as you can imagine, at this time, people are doing puzzles together and playing board games like back in the day. And there's a sense of that, nostalgic sense. And so I think a handwritten note is really aligned with what we want to express at this point as a way to stay engaged and show that we care.
I would agree. And I think that dovetails nicely into our next topic, which is repurposing benefits. Yeah, the nostalgia is there. People are spending more time together with their families, but there have been benefits and things that have kind of been taken from us. And so I'm going to let Suraj hit on this question next, that you're building a new business platform focusing on those things that may have been taken from us, and you're renewing your benefits package with that in mind. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an unprecedented time, so we don't know what's going to happen when we get back to business. Because of that, we need to repurpose and have a different idea and different plans on a benefits platform. I'm not going to take credit for this at all, but a member of our senior leadership team was just thinking one day, emailed our senior vice president, and basically was just realized everything that he's missed, everything from going to the local spirits and wine shop and grabbing a bottle of wine, or going to the gym for a quick workout, heading to his favorite restaurant, going to meet up with friends and just hang out and enjoy their time together. And, something clicked where he wants us to focus on building out a platform that gives that to all of our members, whether it's including different programs that include restaurant gift cards to local restaurants. So we support local businesses, include complimentary gym memberships in these new benefits platforms. A wine club where we send a special bottle of wine to them each month. Everything along those lines, because again, as mentioned, this is an unprecedented time. We need to rework our entire benefits platform. Things are going to be completely different. What we want to do, our main goals through all of this is give back what was taken from everybody, all while support local businesses at all at the same time.
Jay, continue on that. Traditionally, you guys do off-season events, cooking classes, concerts, trips. Tell us how you might be adapting your benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I think we, initially, especially during this stay-at-home portion, I think what we're trying to focus on is what can we take virtual. And so some of those items like a cooking class, how do we take some of those things and try and make them virtual? The other side of this, I think, is, again, planning for the future of this when we do come out of it. What are some of those, makeup dates look like? Having stopped the season with still about a third of the season to go. I mean, we still owe some people some team trips, things like that. So we're going to have to look at a variety of different options there to make good for that. And I also think the other portion that we have to plan for is, coming out of this, it may not be something where we have 100, 200 person events that maybe we've been used to. I mean, it may be a scenario where we have to find smaller, more intimate opportunities and just do more of them. I mean, when you think about which we all, I'm sure, do across the industry, is these, extravagant, luxurious sort of, premium events, whether that's a happy hour, a dinner, whatever that might be. I think that coming out of this, as Mike just talked about, is like, we're going to not only have to adapt and help some of these businesses survive and be a tool for them to drive business in a difficult time, but also we're going to have to provide a safe and comfortable experience for folks. And quite frankly, I mean, I think it's something that we're not used to, right? Is how do we actually plan for folks being comfortable being around each other? And I think that is a big piece here. It could turn into something where we're planning for 10 to 15 person events rather than a 100 person event.
The safety is such an important topic. And I know, Deanna, you're going to focus on this a little bit more because you're a bit different in that the plan and the hope is still to put on an entire season of games. And so right now you have to think about bringing your clients back to your venue. It's not just about the benefits, but it's about the safety protocols. There's food and beverage, there's those considerations. What are you know that you can't look into the crystal ball necessarily and open your venue up now, but you can put together a list of those questions and those partners that you may need to talk to. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there.
Yeah, to your point, because we're looking at actually playing, hopefully, a full season at this point, most of our benefits we hope that we can deliver at that time. And so as we consider opening back up the stadium and hosting events again, it's all about the safety and consideration of how do we open it up and still continue to connect people without actually physically connecting them and making them kind of remove those fears of being in a stadium again. And that's something that we're all going to have to face at some point. And so we started to create like an inventory list of like from the extreme to the minimal, what are the things that we're going to want to take a look at and work with some of our partners, our food and service partners, Levy restaurants. And so a couple of things when you think about suites, will people want to spread a buffet in an open space like a suite, where I think suites and lounge boxes are going to be very popular because they're isolated, considering, when you're thinking of the masses at an arena or a stadium, but how we interact within that space is going to be really interesting. Are they going to be pre-wrapped meals and boxes versus this beautiful spread that we generally see for a while? Does it stay, or is there a new normal that comes out of this? And it's going to be really interesting, but we're going to have to start talking through that. In addition to, as you enter the building, will we have to start thermometer testing or having some sort of like infrared, kind of glassware or checkpoints? Right now we are testing and using thermometer readings for guests that come in our stadium right now, which is a very minimal perspective, but we are doing that. Are we having face masks available at doors? Those are going to be really interesting conversations to have. But right now we're literally taking a complete inventory list. Every idea is there. As we're having these client touch points, we're asking them about their fears, and we're keeping those in mind so that we can help keep that on our list as we look at solving these problems or creating solutions for the opportunity to make it feel safe and to remove some of those fears and challenges that we present will happen.
I think we have to take our medicine at this point. It's not something that we want to hear that there are necessarily fan fears, but I think if you look around, yes, to the question that you ask, are things going to be different? Yeah, for sure. And so you have started making a list and a list of those partners, the questions that you need to ask, and asking also what types of technologies might be fast tracked, which we'll get to here momentarily. But I want to ask about, other questions that our clients are probably asking us. And Suraj, this is one that I'm going to throw to you. They're asking about contract elements, smaller package options. And so I was wondering if you all have started to prioritize smaller packages, quarter suites, 5-game plans, or anything like that from a Pistons perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually started building out a whole new plan regarding that. We've typically only offered full annual suite shares, half suite shares, everything, especially with loge boxes as well. But now that disposable income might be at a minimum, we're going to have to kind of take a look at what other options, what other packages are going to be affordable for some of our top clients. The Detroit market has been hit very, very hard. We're a hub of international travel, and I think we're the third state right now leading in cases. So to kind of piggyback off of what Deanna said, and making friends not money. We're focusing on accommodating all of our top clients and all of our top prospects. So we are starting to build out new 5-game plans, suite and loge options, quarter share, suite and loge options that include benefits. A lot of those typically don't, because they compete with your half share or your full suite lease. So we're looking at building those out. And additionally, on top of what Deanna said as well, is I believe that suite and loge box product, because it's isolated, it's exclusive, it's private, is definitely gonna thrive when we come out of this. So the more options that we have among these products, I think the more successful we're going to be. So we're going to be focusing on, and already focused on launching those when we get back to business.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I want to stick with you and talk a little bit about industries and clients that may be affected through this. So when we return to sports, there might be some of our clients and industries affected most. Fans, season ticket holders are one thing, but premium clients and corporate partnerships is going to be a bit different. There might be industries reactive to their investment. It might go down. They might have their budgets cut, or they might have to alter how they're doing a partnership or a plan with us. And this topic is largely market driven. You all are in 3 separate areas. And I'd like to delve into a little bit, again, the market sensitivity and the different industries in your particular city. Focus on those, how they might come back. What are you keeping a close eye on? And Suraj, in Detroit, obviously auto is big. And so can you explain a little bit how you started to study that particular industry, among others, and those that you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, absolutely. As I just mentioned, Detroit is the hub of international travel. We are third in the country in cases. And obviously the auto industry is our largest industry in our market. So as you mentioned, it's completely market driven. Detroit is different from Houston, different from other cities in the country. So what we've been focusing on is not the companies that are struggling during this time, but the type of industries that are thriving during this time. And I'm sure that's kind of a basic idea to some organizations. And I'm sure a lot of you who are listening in are doing that right now, but we took it a step further and been focusing on those small business type industries, your canned goods and jarred goods industries. We have companies here, Lipari and Vlasic, which are among that industry, energy, waste management, all of those companies outside of communications and healthcare that are obviously thriving right now. We're going to be setting up campaigns that are directly targeting those different industries once we get back in business. So, you can sit here and think, oh, this is going to be really, really tough. Our economy is going down. All these industries are struggling. Or you can think more on a positive note. It's like, okay, what industries are thriving? Let's think a little bit differently on what are some kind of niche markets, niche industries that we can focus on. And we have some shock and awe campaigns that they're already set up to do so once we get back into business.
Deanna, why don't you piggyback on that a little bit? You oversee several departments, including corporate partnerships and premium. So start by telling us how you're monitoring things from an industry perspective and how businesses may be affected and how they're going to react when we do come back to sports.
Yeah, I mean, we've been staying really in tune and keeping our ear to the ground to what's happening around the industries. I mean, we're still very much actively, like I said, engaging with prospects and clients today. And so it's been helpful staying engaged because we're able to get a good pulse on the health of their business and specifically more in our marketplace. Obviously, as Michael shared, like there's some very significant industries are being hit by this crisis in a way that nobody could have probably expected. Obviously, our own entertainment, travel is a big one. And so we're starting to see the conversations we've been having in those realms put on pause. And again, we want to stay engaged just to keep an understanding of the pulse of how things are going to proceed. But to Michael's point, it's important that we stay focused on the ones that have a potential to thrive. And I think there's going to be some new industries that are going to emerge from this situation, especially on the tech side as we continue to take a look at this. On the thriving side, I think what we've really noticed is consumer products are doing really well. I mean, they can't keep up with the demand of people's needs from staying at home. I mean, at the end of this, those Charmin bears are going to be like just rolling. I mean, they're going to have a house bigger than yours, Jake. I mean, at this point.
Careful. You're the one with the pool, Deanna. You're the one with the pool.
Warn everybody, Jake and I used to work together. And so consumer products, the retail providers that sell those products are doing pretty well. And so our conversations with some of our clients from a retail perspective are good. I think obviously delivery services, tech solutions for working at home and being able to stay connected to those mobile work solution companies and organizations, I think are thriving during this time. For us specifically in Houston, similar to the auto industry in Detroit, our industry that really kind of keeps us afloat is oil and gas. And so unfortunately, this virus has dampened the demand of oil here specifically. And so because of that, we're seeing plummeting oil prices. And I think that's going to have some issues and some consequences economically as we get through this thing.
You brought up something to me earlier on our call today. Our core audience is premium. And the valuable thing that you brought up is to say that, look, just like you and me and Jake and Mike and everybody else who's in attendance today, we want to connect. Well, premium clients have been missing that as well. And so, yes, there might be an adaptation of budgets and who's able to come back and who isn't, but go on the point of when we return, people are going to want to entertain. Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think as you think about businesses, when they do get back to the office, I mean, we've been at home, spending time and making connections with our families here at our houses. Think about when you go back to work and that need, you've been so distant for so long that you're going to have to come together, and there's going to be some requirements and some necessity to have some team building activities. And that's what we can provide as sports teams and venues and entities, that we're going to be able to provide that entertainment outlet for those organizations to come back together, which is going to help them kind of revitalize and restart the culture that they've had when they were back in the office. It's going to be, I think it's going to be odd, no different than it was odd to get used to, for us to get used to working at home. It's going to be strange to go back to work and getting back and feeling connected again. And so after coming out of this isolation. So we will have to be prepared with that communication, with our arms open to share like what we have to present and provide them in that case.
So let's pivot to innovation and fast tracking of technologies. And I'm going to start with Jake on this one. There are going to be certain technologies that have to be fast tracked, and we're going to have to somehow not only train our own staffs, but train clients how to make the learning curve shorter, if you will. A couple of those, mobile, cashless, some of them that before the COVID-19 happened were already happening, and now they're being fast tracked. Jake, I want you to tell us a little bit more about the Wolves Wallet program, because you already had started it, but at this point, the offerings may change in kind of with the requirements to make it go a little bit quicker and have your fans understand it. Walk us through that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, as we had this conversation yesterday, Amanda, I think for us, we're in a little bit different position as we've been, digital, 100% digital ticketing for about 6 years now. And for the last 2, we've been using this Wolves Wallet product, as well as sort of a court cash is what we call it. It's sort of fake money that we load up for our season ticket holders. So we've been going down a path already to be more digital and to be more app based as our fans come into the arena. And there's so many amazing products out there, amazing different opportunities for teams to go in this direction. And for us, you know, we recently announced that we were going to go to a 50% off concessions and team store discount for all full season ticket holders. So we had this out there prior to the pandemic. And when we knew it, when we were going to this, the only way that our members get this discount is if they use their Wolves wallet, which is, you know, like your Starbucks app, you would load your credit card into your Wolves app. And as you go to the concessions and order your ice cold beer, you use your app to pay for that. And that's what in essence, what the Wolves wallet is. Now, when you fast forward and think about, you know, as Deanna just was talking about all the things that go into the game experience and how things like that might change, the cashless part to me, and until the early discussions we have had, is going to be critical, because I think as you think about people exchanging money, change, things like that, it's not something that's necessarily a hygienic process. And so we were planning on moving some of our stands to be cashless. We started that process toward, you know, testing it towards the end of last year. But I can tell you, as we look at planning for next year, we are probably going to double down, or try to double down with our food partner, Levy Restaurants, to be able to figure out how do we expand this, because just from a health and safety standpoint of using cashless, it to us makes a lot more sense. And I think, you know, from a technology piece, I think the more we can have people operating through their app and the less maybe people interaction, at least until we come to a better point with this pandemic, the more comfortable people are going to feel coming into the arena. I mean, for us, you know, last year we launched a Bud button, which again, it's a quick, you know, there's other teams that are using it too, but I mean, you know, it's just a quick hit of a button on your app, and all of a sudden someone brings you a beer. I think those are the technology pieces that I think will make this a lot easier on the fans here as we go coming out of this situation.
Deanna, you guys still had a substantial amount of clients who were not using mobile ticketing yet. You're now fast tracking that in Houston. Explain to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I inherited the stadium, what I inherited when I got there just over a year ago, is the majority was paper tickets that were being utilized heavily. There were instances of transitioning some fans and some segment of fans to mobile ticketing. And so during our renewal process this year, we made a nice jump there, but we didn't pull the band off completely in some products groups. You know, have always been a challenge. Sometimes suites can be a challenge. I think, so as we get back and what we're looking for, we want to definitely fast track that process. I think it's going to be important as we get back and we start to establish a paperless environment, similar to what Jake mentioned. You know, I think it's important from a cashless perspective as well. So in addition to that, you know, outside of mobile ticketing, the cashless piece is a big component as well. And luckily, right before we'd opened the stadium, we just switched out our entire POS system in the stadium. And so now we should have the technology. We do have the the technology to be able to take mobile payments, which we weren't able to do before. And at first, I think for us, we weren't promoting it that strong. We wanted to kind of walk before we run and really look at 2021 is to send that message out. But now that this is all happening, we're going to have to take the training wheels off, and we're going to have to probably push it through much quicker, as well as self-pay. So not having people take a credit card to swipe, but, you know, kind of turn the screen around and let them swipe themselves situation. We now have that capability. And so we'll have to, again, we'll have to speed that up and get that going as soon as we get back.
Well, I think we're taking cues from other industries there. I know some of our local coffee shops do just that, the self-swipe, but it does take a little bit of practice. And so you hit a little bit on our call earlier this morning about that learning curve. Is there a way that you are providing kind of tutorials now before the venue even opens back up? And then also when the venue opens back up, how are you getting in front of the teaching of that?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously prior to all this happening, we were doing all the things everybody else does when you launch, you know, a transition to mobile, and we were doing face-to-face, and having you come to the sales table, and we were having events where you could learn how to utilize mobile ticketing. Or now I think the big thing for us is we're going to start to script out and build out a online tutorial. And so we're going to have to use, obviously technology such as this to do some face-to-face and some video, maybe like a video library on our website to people can go to and learn how to download the app and use mobile ticketing, how the cashless piece would work, and share and show, again, to those fears that you might have coming to the stadium, all the things you can do to be connected and go to games without having a lot of physical interaction when you come to our stadium.
Yeah, and I'll ask Mike the same question, and you may not have all the answers, and that's not what we're asking for here today. It's not to be experts in any way, but what are you hearing in terms of what your group can fast track, or are you hearing from the clients who are already telling you that they're going to want to safeguard against the human interaction or the currency exchange or things like that? Have you been hearing that from the clients up in Detroit?
Yeah, absolutely. But to kind of differ away from Jake and Deanna, one thing that we've been looking at, and Deanna did mention it, is the food and beverage presentation in our suites. How do you go from tray to plate now, rather than having tongs or other instruments that every person in the suite is actually touching? So not only are we working from a cash exchange standpoint, but there's so many things that are going to be affected by this. Even prospecting events. We've talked about taking a NBA court, putting it in a park, so it's open air and outside, setting up chairs around it like it's courtside, and just having some different time slots. So it's not everybody crammed in one area. It's an open air prospecting event that is going to be, very strategic in how many people do we have in this area at one time. So everything is on the table. Everything is absolutely on the table as far as how things are going to look when we get back to business. But a lot of things people don't even think about: food and beverage, prospecting events, other events in general that Jake brought up. Things are changing. Things are changing, and you have to be prepared for everything that comes at us.
Well, I think you hit on two prospecting events, but also sweetholder tastings, for instance. That's a chance that Deanna hit on. You're able to get people there and train them. Well, the way that you just facilitate those events is now going to have to change. Yes, you're probably going to have to use that platform to train them, but then how do you also present them the food and beverage and the new safety protocols? You could do it there probably, but you're still, weary of how you're serving that food even there. You also have the gifting component. Should you be spending budget on gifts now when your own team may be, strapped in some way? So I think we can look at all these different solutions, but we have to evaluate them, with our leadership and see what's possible and what we can actually get done and make our fans, or let our fans, encourage them to understand it. So I appreciate all the points that were made here, especially on the fast tracking of the technologies and the food and beverage piece. I think we're going to continue that conversation, and this isn't the last panel that we'll talk about those topics on. But with our last few minutes here this afternoon, I want to talk about our return to the games, and we have to do it in a celebratory fashion, but we also have to do it safely and with a focus on community. With the whole, we're in this together, that's not fluff, guys. That's true. We are trying to support our clients in the best way possible. And so I'm going to start with Jake, because you already had been planning a celebration of Minnesota basketball before this all happened. So what are you doing with that now?
Yeah, I think you just touched on it really well there, Amanda. Is like this needs to be sympathetic and understanding, but also I think understanding that our fans are going to be excited about getting back into the arena and watching basketball again. And so we had already started down a path to do a celebration of Minnesota basketball night that would have been this past Sunday. And we had a lot of things already lined up in terms of alumni players, collegiate players that were did some historic things here locally with the University of Minnesota, and top high school players as well. And I think what we want to do is try to transform maybe what we were planning there to be more of again, using that same terminology of celebration of basketball, but tweak it a little bit to be more about us being back together. I think all of us have moved towards this membership platform, and I think that membership platform tends to sort of lean towards also meaning family. And I think we're also going to lean on this being our Timberwolves family getting back together after being separated for so long. And I think our plan here is that we make it about basketball and all of our love for the game and for being at the games together. So we're excited about what that could look like. I think, to your point, we need to be, I think we also have to plan for things to be different, and how that would be, and understanding that people have had difficult times. There's been people that have lost their lives through this, and I think we need to be appreciative of all the healthcare workers who have done so much during this time. So there's a lot of different elements that go into this, and I think it's going to be important for us to really plan for that. And unfortunately for us, and I think everybody on this call and those listening, is like, there's so much uncertainty right now that we don't know when that moment's going to be. But I think that right now it's a great time to spend time around what that would look like, and start to vet those ideas out. Because look, working from home, I think all of us went through probably a transformation process where it was like the first few days you're like, oh my God, what's going on here? And now we've started to get into more of a routine. And I think for me personally, the way I've been able to get through it mentally is taking this time to almost be like a mini sabbatical, and look at all the things and spend time on things that maybe I wouldn't have spent time in the normal rush of a season and the rush of our normal 12-month cycle.
Well, you're taking us to the end here, and you're hitting on, I can tell that you and Deanna have worked together in the past, because she's gonna take us home.
I taught her everything she knows, Amanda. I taught her everything she knows.
Don't even give this, you get no credit there, man.
Of course you did. But Deanna, you're gonna tell us a little bit more about your philosophy of what you can do to use this time. And Jake, I kind of like your analogy there of using it like a sabbatical, if you will, but you're planning for stuff that you didn't have time to before. And I think Bassano from the Reds mentioned that on the last call. But Deanna, take us home with that one, your philosophy for what we can do here and now to plan for when we reopen.
Yeah, I mean, to Jake's point, I mean, this is just the perfect time to work on the business rather than in the business, which is something we always wish that we had more time to do. And, I think it's really important that we utilize this time to reimagine our strategies, our processes, and what we're doing today. And I think in most times of crisis that we've seen in the historic of anything that's ever happened, is that innovation and innovating as a country or as industries is one of the best products that comes out of something like this. And so, I would say no different than what all of us are doing. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this panel, I think that's what we're doing today, is we're all reimagining what could be. And I'm really excited, just like everybody else, to see how this changes our industry and how we engage and how we are as community drivers in this industry moving forward. So it's a very scary, but yet in some way an exciting future outlook of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I think being imaginative at this point, being creative and allowing ourselves to imagine what could be, given the tools that we have and those that are coming online. And I think that was a great place to leave it for today. I want, our audience, and also you guys too, first of all, I want to thank you for coming forward with these ideas, but this isn't the end. We also, came forth with some questions today. We're not answering them all, but there is still so much uncertainty that it gives us that opportunity to think about those questions and then try to get them answered in the next couple months. There will be light at the end of the tunnel soon, we hope, but let's all use this time, as you all mentioned, to think intelligently about what we can do upon return with the time that we've been given. So I appreciate everyone's time. I would love to get questions for our next virtual panels. This, again, is a series, and so we will focus on different and probably more niche topics in our next couple. But again, want to just say how much we appreciate our panelists both this week and last week for joining us, and for the audience to keep sending us your questions. And we appreciate the community more than you realize. And I can't tell you how valuable it is to come together and learn and share during these times. So reach out anytime. And again, thank you to our panelists, and everybody have a great afternoon. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.